Everybody ready? Let's
Ready.
go live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. It is Wednesday, December 21st, 2022. This is the regular weekly public business meeting for the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. And all three of us are present, constituting a quorum. And this will be the very last time the three of us constitute a quorum, because today is the final board meeting for Commissioner Doug Hunt, who is retiring at the end of the year. And as is often tradition, we have canceled the very last meeting of the year. So this is it.
Thank you.
And I will just add that in honor of Commissioner Hunt today, who has quite the collection of neckties, we are all wearing various neckties in honor of you. So
I thought this one was pretty good.
Yeah,
$500 and $1,000 bills.
well, I wore a Christmas tie, but not a Santa tie.
Okay.
It's a Jerry Garcia, and it's one of my favorite ties, but I note Chair Hall has a tie very similar to one I wore or had. Not that that's the same tie, but a money tie and a Santa tie, and that's a Jerry Garcia, if I recognize it, and a Santa tie and Santa ties. So thank you all for, I guess, appreciating my interest in ties.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we move to the adoption of the consent calendar. These are either routine items or items that have been discussed at previous meetings. Is there any item that commissioners or staff would like to highlight or remove for individual consideration?
I move to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
Now, second it.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the consent calendar as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It is approved. We move right along. It's something of a light agenda today. We have two decision and action items. The first one is the proposed 2023 Lincoln County fee schedule. And do we have an additional presentation? I know we've looked at this before. Mr. Gardner.
Brian Gardner, Assistant County Counsel for Lincoln County. No, there were no changes, additional changes. So the version that you have here would be the version that would be proposed for 2023, starting January 2023. It just has the highlight, the cross outs, that's all removed. So it's the clean version. But there is no additional. And yes, it for everybody's as a reminder, this came before the board on December 7th. And so it's been 2 weeks. And so that's why it's on the decision and action now.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and then just for the edification of folks in the audience here or electronically, Oregon statutes allow counties and I believe other municipalities to review and update their fee schedule twice a year. 1st of January and 1st of July, and majority of our adjustments typically happen with the beginning of the fiscal year in July, but there are usually a few mid-fiscal year as well, and that's what we're taking care of today. Is there any discussion before we move to adoption?
I move to approve the 2023 Lincoln County fee schedule as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second to approve the proposed fee schedule. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is so ordered. Now we move on to the petition for road name change for East Darky Creek Road near Walport. And County Council Yule, I know, for instance, there's been some additional historical research. What do you have to share with us today?
Sure. Commissioners, when this came before you, and initially, if you remember several months ago, you requested staff initiate this petition under your authority to name roads under Chapter 6 of the Lincoln County Code. This is the road known as East Darky Creek Road in Walport, Oregon. You sent notice to the property owners as required under the code. Of the proposed names, which is East Southworth Road or East Lewis Southworth Road. You sent notice of the public hearing, which took place last week on the 14th. So all property owners who have an interest in the road or have an address on the road or if otherwise affected, received notice. You didn't receive any appeals on this matter. You did hear testimony last week on the proposed name changes. Some proposals that were made last week. There was a proposal of Lewis Southworth's birth name, which is believed to be Hunter. So that was a proposed name consideration for you. The next steps would be for a decision on the name change. Know that nobody's addresses will be changing, meaning their street addresses will remain the same. So if you do make a decision on the name change today, individuals can start using that name immediately. And then we would have a deadline, typically is 3 months later, of when all the addresses would formally change. Notice will get sent out to all the property owners, the assessor's office, the clerk's office, planning department, the road department, telephone and utility companies, fire departments, emergency agencies, including Willamette 911 dispatch and Toledo 911 dispatch. Well, that's just going to be Willamette, I believe. And then the US Post Office. So all those affected entities would receive notice. But essentially, individuals can start using the address immediately if you make a decision on the road name change.
And with
I would
regard,
maybe take public
Yeah.
input to see if anybody else
Okay.
has any more input on this matter before you
Okay.
make a decision.
we'll open it up for public input before the board deliberates and acts.
Or maybe see if there's.
Let's see if there's
anybody-
anyone online, if we can get the participant list up. And let's see,
And how?
use the raise hand function, please, if you'd like to be heard for up to 3 minutes on this issue. Okay, seeing none, and apparently we don't have anybody in the room either. We can move to board deliberation. And I understand the sentiments toward wanting to use the name Hunter, since this apparently was Mr. Southworth's birth name. But Southworth is the name he was known by throughout his adult life, certainly during his time in residency in Lincoln County. 18 years ago, the Oregon Geographic Names Board changed the name of what was then Darky Creek to Southworth Creek. And with Waldport making plans to open up a Southworth Park in a couple of years, just seems to me that there's a logic in keeping all of those tied together.
I would agree with you. You know, I spent a lot of time thinking about, because I thought it was a good point that was brought up. And I think with the information we have, we do the very best we can. That is the name that he, used as his name for most of his adult life. I also feel that, with some public comment around a length of road name and that kind of stuff, and also keeping consistent with Southworth Creek and Southworth Park, that I'd be in favor. Well, I'm in favor of changing the name in general, but I think I am most in favor of changing it to East Southworth Road.
Commissioner Hunt.
I would agree as far as naming. I think, as I said at the last board meeting, with these autofill forms, East Lewis Southworth Road probably isn't going to fit. But nonetheless, I think for expediency's sake and simplicity's sake, East Southworth Road is the better choice. I also think that it was interesting that the potentially, or at least there's some historic information that indicates his birth name may have been Hunter, and certainly I think that's an interesting piece of information. But really, one of the purposes in changing the name of East Darky Creek Road to East Southworth Road is to honor the man. And if we use the name Hunter, I'm not sure many people would associate that name with the man and his many accomplishments. So I think it's important to use the name Southworth. And also point out that as an individual, this man was really an exceptional individual. Even as a white person, the accomplishments that he made would have been significant. And as an individual of color or African American, the fact that he was able to accomplish so much even speaks more highly to what he did and the significance that he plays in the history of our county. So fully support the name change. And again, I think East Southworth Road is the best way to recognize the man for his tremendous accomplishments.
Well said.
Commissioner Hunt, given it's your last meeting, would you like to make the motion to do this?
Oh, it would be an honor. I move that we change the road name for East Darky Creek in Walport, Oregon to East Southworth Road.
I second the motion.
Is there any further discussion? We have a motion. Yes,
Bring up the hunter, maybe do a pavilion. The hunter pavilion.
Oh, that's something. the
yeah,
city
we could
think about.
suggest
Yeah.
that to the city. They're
For the
developing
city.
the park.
Good idea.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition to change the name of East Darky Creek Road near Walport, Oregon to East Southworth Road. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. It's unanimously approved. That feels good.
Yeah, that's so good.
Long overdue.
Amen. Let's see. We move on to commissioner reports, and we talked about this at the beginning of the meeting, but I want to offer a few more formal thoughts. Today, we are saying thanks and farewell to Commissioner Doug Hunt, who has served honorably and ably for the past 10.5 years as Lincoln County Commissioner. But that's not the whole of the Doug Hunt story by a long shot. He has more than 40 years of service to the people of this county in a variety of roles. And I want to share a personal story that shows just how small this world can be. I grew up in Northeast Portland. Doug grew up in Southwest, but our paths never crossed until we both came to Lincoln County in the late 1980s. And at some point, not too long into our relationship, he happened to mention his father, retired political science professor Lee Hunt of Pacific University in Forest Grove. And I said, oh, the same Lee Hunt I took several political science courses from. You know, during his,
And I might note,
Yes.
you earned A's from my father, who was very had high standards. So,
yes, he was known on the Pacific campus as a notoriously tough grader.
yeah. And I experienced some of that toughness as his son. Bless his heart.
Sure you
Bless his heart.
Well, during his 39 years in the banking industry, beginning in Portland and then continuing here in Lincoln County for many decades, he was active in chambers of commerce in every corner of our county. He spent 9 years as a member of the Lincoln County School Board. And even before his appointment to the county commission in 2012, he was a member of the county budget committee and also of our nonprofit social service committee for several years. Now, it's just barely scratching the surface, but Doug certainly will be looking back on many accomplishments during his time as a commissioner. He's been focused on updating and improving internal services like IT, finance, and personnel. His policy work has focused primarily on transportation, workforce development, and economic development, although we can throw in human services as well. Every commissioner has to be a Jack or Jill of all trades. Doug has been on the State Workforce Development Board for many years, and he chaired maritime, sector strategy committee to help increase family wage job opportunities along the coast. And of course, Commissioner Hunt also played a major point in leading the county's response to the twin crises of 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic and the Echo Mountain wildfire. And we are certainly going to miss Doug's steady professionalism, his good humor, his kindness, and his legendary tie collection. But our loss, though, is his wife Patsy's gain, as well as their growing brood of children and grandchildren. And it was nice to see all of them, as well as Doug's 99-year-old mom at his.
That 1 year is important to her.
Yeah, at his retirement gathering not long ago at the Performing Arts Center. So Doug, here's to you.
Well, thank you, Chair Hall, for those kind words. And I could spend some time talking about accomplishments. I think Chair Hall did an admirable job of highlighting some of them. But I'm going to take this opportunity maybe to bookend 2 accomplishments in my 10-year career. And before I do that, I'm going to take a moment to acknowledge Commissioner Lindley. I have been agreed. I had the fortune to follow in his footsteps. They're very big footsteps. Don Still is the longest serving commissioner in the history of our county. And I owe a lot to him because he gave me opportunities to gain some skills, some expertise, and some knowledge so that when the opportunity was presented to become a county commissioner, I had the skills and was successful in being appointed. I'll make note that was some point in my career as a banker that I realized that industry had changed from counting widgets, from customer service to counting widgets. And I decided that that really wasn't something that I had any passion for, but having served on the Lincoln County School Board for some 9 years, I realized that I did have a passion for serving the public and helping others, and decided I wanted to become a county commissioner. And with Commissioner Lindley's mentoring, I had some skills and was successful in being appointed to complete his term. Many people have asked me, well, Don, I'm sure told you what he had in mind, and I'll be honest, no. He told me he was going to make an announcement in April of 2012, and little did I know that it would be his announcement of an early retirement. And so I started the application process at that time to be appointed and was successful. So I owe a lot to Commissioner Lindley. I think the county owes a lot to Commissioner Lindley. And I wanted to take a moment to recognize him today. So back to accomplishments. The first accomplishment certainly was the completion of Highway 20. Don, that was a project that was near and dear to his heart. He worked very hard at the Area Commission on Transportation and eventually got support for the project. And I was fortunate enough to follow in his leadership and was a commissioner at the time that project was finally completed. The other accomplishment that I'd like to acknowledge is, as Chair Hall indicated, I was chair of the Governor's Maritime Sector Strategy Task Force. And out of that task force came a report that indicated that there was an opportunity to create educational programs at our community colleges and also job skill programs at our regional workforce investment boards. But it took some money, and that became the stumbling block. But I'm very pleased to report that Representative Gomberg earlier this month met and has developed a proposed budget for the legislative action next year, which includes $2 million to hire those people to be able to implement those training and educational programs, which will lead individuals to above average paying jobs. So 2 accomplishments that bookend my career. Last comment I'll make is recently I was talking with my mother and indicating that this would be my last meeting, and asked her, what you have some thoughts, Mom, on what I might say. And she said, speak from your heart. And so I have, and I will. And I will say my thanks. when I decided to be a county commissioner, there was a part of me that said, be careful what you wish for. But I have truly enjoyed the job and it has exceeded my highest expectations. And as a side note, I tell my children, well, I was 55 when I finally decided what I wanted to do. And the youngest, Courtney, says, geez, Dad, that's really encouraging. Well, you can find a career that brings true happiness, I think, even at that age. Anyhow, the job has truly exceeded my highest expectations. And I owe I'm going to get choked up here. I owe a sincere thank you to all of you who have supported me throughout this 10-year journey. It's been an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege to serve as your county commissioner. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Jacobson, anything to add?
Nothing else to add, just a big heartfelt thank you for all you have done to the county and not just serving as a commissioner, but everything you have done to contribute to this community. So thank you, Doug.
I'm reminded of that old song, There'll Never Be Another You. So,
That may be fortunate for me. Thank you all.
keep that. Public comment? None. We do not need an executive.
We should check again
Oh,
and make sure.
okay, we can check again on if anybody, we only had a couple of people online, but if they want to be heard under public comment for another topic, yeah, please use the raise hand. And we don't seem to have that. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we are not meeting next Wednesday. On Tuesday, oh, we've got a typographical error. Even though several of us reviewed the agenda, this one slipped by. The swearing in of newly elected office holders will be on Tuesday, January 2nd. Third, I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner. In this room, and the public meeting of the Board of Commissioners, Wednesday, January 24th, 2023, right here. So until then, a very happy 2023, and we'll see you in the new year. We're adjourned.